call the meeting to order. On behalf of the Planning Commission, I'd like to welcome our residents and viewers to this regular meeting of November 12th, 2025. On tonight's agenda, it's relatively short. We have one discussion item. Before we get into that discussion item, we have one housekeeping item. That would be the minutes of our October 14th, 2025 regular meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes? If not, is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
We have motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Minutes are approved. Thank you. All right, we'll open up our discussion item then. This is the final plat for the Parkview Ponds Second Edition. And Tony, you're going to take this.
I am. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commission members. Before you this evening is the final plat for Parkview Ponds Second Edition. The property is located at the intersection of Embers Avenue and 198th Street West, obviously in the Parkview Ponds neighborhood. The final plat itself consists of the conversion of an outlot into a single buildable residential lot. The property was originally platted in 2005 as Outlot H within Parkview Ponds. The intent of Outlot H was to preserve a potential roadway corridor that extends from Embers Avenue to Aiken Road. At that time, in 2005, City Council did indicate when this got taken through the process that upon build out of the Parkview Ponds subdivision, that Outlot H could be converted back to a standard residential lot if the extension of 198th Street to Aiken Road is determined not to be warranted. With the build out of Parkview Ponds, which has been built out now for a couple of years now, staff has determined that that connection to Aiken Road is not warranted based on current traffic patterns and needs. We just don't see that connection happening. The other thing is it goes right through the park preserve, which is another issue, and there's some grade elevation changes and things like that to where it makes it very difficult to make that connection even if it were to be warranted. On the screen and in your packet, this is the actual plat itself, the final plat. The lot, which would be legally described as Lot 1, Block 1, Parkview Ponds, Second Edition, has a lot size of 11,783 square feet with a lot width of 85 feet. This property, along with all adjacent property in the Parkview Ponds subdivision, is zoned R1, which requires a minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet and a minimum lot width of 75 feet. The lot doesn't meet all of the minimum requirements, actually exceeds all the minimum requirements. There will be standard drainage and utility easements provided. That means there will be a 10-foot drainage and utility easement along the front and rear property line and 5-foot easements along the side lot lines. The city's intent upon this replatting, as it is a city-owned property, is to have it appraised and then to potentially sell the property. A buyer for the property has not yet been identified. Outlot H, as it exists today, was platted with a blanket drainage and utility easement. So essentially that entire outlot is covered by drainage and utility easement. In order to proceed with the plat, that easement needs to be vacated. We have set a public hearing for that vacation, and it's scheduled for the November 17th City Council meeting. And again, as I previously mentioned, new drainage and utility easements will be dedicated with the second edition plat. Do want to mention there is an existing 10-foot wide bituminous trail that does go through this lot. On the screen and in your packet, there is a survey showing the location of that trail. It extends from Embers Avenue west to the Farmington Park Preserve and then kind of winds its way through the park. The trail will remain on the lot, and a separate trail easement will be required to cover that trail section. We cannot put a trail easement on a plat, so it has to be a separate document. That easement will have to be executed and recorded at time of closing for the sale of that lot. I already have the easement drafted. Just don't know when that will be actually executed. As long as the lot's in the city's name, we really do not need the easement. It's once that transfer of title happens is when we need to have that easement secured. The action that's requested this evening is to recommend approval of the Parkview Ponds Second Edition Final Plat, contingent upon the following, and forward the recommendation to the City Council. And that condition is the vacation of the blanket drainage and utility easement on the property legally described as Outlot H, Parkview Ponds.
Thank you, Tony. Commissioner Winchell.
No, I just have one question. Tony, as a city, I know they're looking at, potentially selling the lot, but as far as the development that in Mystic Meadows, like, would this road out to Aiken Road from 198, the Embers, cut down potentially on the traffic issue that would have been to the south in Mystic Meadows there? I just don't want to necessarily give up this lot if that truly can help make the development happen. And
Right. I don't know that that would make a substantial impact. The more important connection would be the extension of Diamond Path. I don't know that having this particular extension out to Aiken Road would create that much of a difference.
yeah, I guess my only concern is that Embers goes out to Diamond Path there, and potentially the cars from the south come up,
Right.
go west on Embers, and then. No, I guess overall I think it's fine. That's my concern.
Yeah, I know our city engineers looked at it and has determined that at this point it's not warranted.
Thank you.
Commissioner Snowbeck.
Just interested on this. How does the city look at properties that they own and decide when they want to sell it? What spurred this? Just because it's not used, or do you do a yearly?
This is a very interesting, this is a very unique situation. Normally when we take property from the city standpoint, we take it either for park dedication or if there is, let's say, a future well site. Those are typically the two times we take property. We normally don't do this. That's why at the time of approval, the council said, well, if it's determined it's not needed, it can be reverted back. So really, this is a one-off. This is not something that we're going to see probably ever again.
Okay, thanks. That's all I got.
Commissioner Berg.
I'm gonna kind of tag on to what Phil was talking about with the traffic out to 195th there. So the way it looks here, where you take Dover Drive south, it looks like there's maybe potential future land to the south there. Is there any plan at this time to build out to the south in that section? Because I think there still could be some potential for a build out if that ever got built out into residential as well.
To the south?
Yep.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. We get calls on that property all the time. I know there's a number of developers who, the Murphy family owns a majority of that property. And I know that they've been contacted. I can't tell you the number of times that they've been contacted specifically on that property. So I wouldn't be surprised if in a year, 2 years, that we see a plat for
Okay.
that and the Harris property that we reviewed earlier.
Right. So given that and potential likelihood, does it still make sense to sell this lot and not keep it for potential?
We do feel that because eventually that would connect into Diamond Path would connect into 208th Street to the south.
Yep.
Again, we've looked at it through all of our departments and determined that at this point we just don't see the viability of it with what we would lose with having that extended through the park preserve.
Okay. Okay. And then my only other question, Tony, is on the path that runs through that lot. Given the easement that will need to be put in place there, does that still leave enough room to build a matching size home, right, relative to the neighborhood that it's in?
It might end up being a little smaller in width, but it could certainly be longer in length.
Okay.
It leaves still 60 plus feet from the edge of the trail to the easement.
Okay.
Again, is it going to look identical? No, but there's no covenants or anything like that as regards to that within this development.
Yeah, and I wasn't expecting it to be a perfect match, right? But I just didn't want a really small house. in
Yeah,
between
we
two
certainly
houses.
don't want to lose that trail connection.
Yeah,
Because
yep.
it is a pretty important trail connection.
For sure. Okay, yeah, that's all I've got. Thanks, Tony.
All right, well, all good questions. Actually, I kind of remember this from 20 years ago. It wasn't a significant issue at the time. And I certainly hope if the city does decide that they're going to part with it, that it doesn't become an even more significant issue in the future.
Right.
So I was waiting, and Tony did give the explanation of, the grade and going through the park preserve, and it sounds like it'd be a very expensive section of roadway to build. The other thing that I see where it would connect to, and I do remember when 198th to the west of Aiken Road was put in and all that, and the concern with that, you can see the curve of Aiken, and it's kind of a blind intersection that if and when this road is ever built, I think they'd have to do something with that intersection control a little more, or it could be a little more of a dangerous intersection. The one question I got is, okay, so the city took this piece of property from somebody who was developing the land, and now 20 years later, it's the city's property. Why? Has there any been consideration on, is it somebody else's property that owns it? I mean, why does the city?
No, that was negotiated as part of the development agreement.
It was. I mean, I go, if I were the developer, I'd say, that's my piece of property you took,
Yeah,
and I'm not gonna use it. And
We've been maintaining it for the last 20 plus
Right.
years.
Okay.
And we're not looking to break the bank with this property, but we're looking just to kind of recoup what we've spent over the last 20 years for maintenance, essentially.
I think from all the commissioners I've heard tonight, it sounds like there was some hesitancy, but I think there's enough buy-in that we're willing to pass it on, a recommendation to our city council to sell it.
Yeah, Tony, is there really any rush to even sell this land?
I don't know that there's a huge rush. I know there's been some issues with encroachments from the neighbors on it and some infighting that's kind of pushed us to maybe look at doing or disposing of the property, because it was never taken as park dedication or anything like that.
The only reason I ask is, again, I'm actually really concerned that, if this does get developed even to the south, down Dover, that we're giving up a piece of property that potentially could be developed with a road by another developer or something.
This would be it would be a city funded project to
Right.
connect, because it goes right through the park preserve.
Sure,
It's-
yep.
it's city owned property.
All
So
right.
a developer would not be on the hook to put that road in upon probably any kind of circumstance.
It's negotiable. It could be.
It'd be a stretch. It'd be a stretch.
Okay, and I'm fine with it. I just don't want to give up something if there is a concern.
And there's no imminent sale
Yeah.
of this at this point in time. We're just literally trying to set it up for if and when it does
Sure.
sell.
So I'm gonna jump off Phil's wagon here too. So if we look at that property further south, right, is there potential to connect with Aiken further south, or are there no easements for roads further south if that was something that a developer wanted to look at doing down the road?
There could be some potential. A lot of that, until you get further south, there's some pretty significant grade elevation changes there. So I don't know that one will really happen. We may get one that connects into the road just south of the Lutheran Church and then 208th Street. But I don't know that there will be anything further north of there.
Okay. And I think the reason I'm asking is because in some of the earlier discussions we've had this year, we've talked about on the east side of Diamond Path where we were struggling to make those connections out there. So I would hate to say, yep, go ahead and sell this, we build the house, and then
Right.
2 years from now, we're having a conversation about how do we connect with Aiken down the line. So,
Yeah, I think from the conversation, like I said, the the commission struggled a little bit with giving up something that we may or may not need in the future. It sounds like staff and, the city engineer feels that we won't need it. We don't need it now, we won't need it in the future. I guess I won't second guess that. So I would support sending this to our city council. Hopefully, it's the right move. But I think there's some hesitation on this commission, on whether it's the right move or not.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. Again, I trust you guys that you made the right decision, or and again, there's no buyer in hand, so it could sit there too, or it could sell instantly. But at least everybody's looked at it, and we're all on the same page. And yeah,
And I think my concerns have been alleviated, Dirk. Tony, sounds like you've been able to answer the questions that I have, and we've talked through it. Sounds like you guys have already thought about it, so I'm okay with it too, Dirk. I just wanted to make sure we had this.
If it wouldn't have come to us, I think we would have been fine with that too.
Yep, exactly.
But it did come to us, so now we're gonna address it tonight. So with that, then I'd look for a motion, either to recommend approval or disapproval of Parkview Pond's second edition final plat contingent upon, the one thing, and this would be a recommendation to our city council. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to recommend it to the city council.
We have a recommendation for approval of Parkview Pond second, excuse me. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and second, is there any more discussion? If not, call the roll, please.
Winchell,
Yes.
Roddy,
Yes.
Novak,
Yes.
Berg.
Yes.
All right, well, thank you. Tony, was there anything else from staff?
Nothing, just wanted to make sure that you all received the email on the boards and commission, reception for December 4th. If you haven't RSVP'd, if you plan on attending, please do so.
Thank you. Anything else from the commission? If not, I'll remind our viewers, our next regular meeting is December 9th, and with that, I'd look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, we are officially adjourned. Thank you, everybody.